Hello, everyone. Welcome to another issue of Marketing Mondays or Marketing Moment Mondays. I'm here with our brand developer and manager and my youngest lovely daughter, Allie. How are you doing?
Well, how about yourself?
I am doing fine. I'm going to go to gallery view. I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup here. Everybody forgive the technical issues there, and also forgive that I am on location. So if at some point a Great Dane comes in behind me, I'll just kind of give you the heads up on that. I am traveling this week, but we wanted to do our podcast and cover the information. What I want to kind of cover on this one, and Allie has helped take it to a new level with the different marketing channels. But one thing that I think, at least for me, I've built a career out of it, and that's positioning yourself in the market as an expert. And, one thing 25 years ago when we decided we were going to go into this market, some of it I had to intentionally go out and learn. Some of it I had to learn just from trial and error. But over, a half a decade, 5 to 7 years of doing this, I became pretty proficient, and we saw trends that I thought would be really important to share with the staffing and recruiting industry. And so it started out to where I started writing articles in association trade magazines. I started speaking at conferences on how to manage credit risk and just the different issues that you run into. And it's kind of positioning versus prospecting, but it's with the intent of putting yourself as an authority in the industry. And if you've done what you're doing for any amount of time, you've got a series of expertise that you kind of need to capitalize on. Allie, kind of give us some background on how we're positioning AER as a thought leader and expert in the industry and some of the other stuff.
Well, first I want to apologize if you hear any odd background noise. They're doing construction literally underneath my office, so please forgive that. But I would like to talk a little bit about how to get people to come to you, because it's really easy to want to go to the people that you want to sell and be like, I have such an amazing project or program, and I want you to invest in it. I want you to be a client of mine. And it's so easy to get stuck in that train of thought. But if you think about it, if you have amazing resources of articles, of videos that your potential clients can come to you and want to read and want to really engage in, that changes the tables a little bit, because you're no longer asking them, you're giving them. And so they can read, they can enjoy the content that you've worked so hard with your years of experience to perfect, and you can really capitalize on that and give them something. And so that way, when they need a recruiter, a marketing person, they can come to you and be like, I need XYZ. And it's no longer asking them, they're coming to you, which really helps to change the tables.
It does. One thing that Dan Kennedy, which is a marketing guy, he's still around, but I mean, he's kind of a legend from, the 70s and 80s and 90s, talks about you go from a welcomed guest, or you go from an unwelcome pest to a welcomed guest. And if instead of saying, gee, buy my product, if you can help them solve a solution, if you're a recruiter, you know your industry, you know the problems that the HR managers are having. If you can position yourself as the advice giver, then you're going to be the deemed expert. And, I come back to, with the magazine, I've had people literally come up to me at trade shows on an article that I've written, and they've asked for my autograph. Now, this goes back probably 10 years ago when magazines were a little more standard than they are now, but I've never had anyone ask me to sign off on a piece of sales literature. But it positions you as an expert, because one thing is, if I call a client and I close them on a deal, not to say that we don't have a deep relationship, not to say that it's not profitable for both of us, but the dynamics start out and will remain to a very large degree almost as a sales rep and a client, where if they view you as an expert and they call you, then you're the esteemed expert in the industry. And I cannot tell you how many times somebody has read an article or read one of my books. They call and they're actually surprised that I answered my phone. I had, true story, probably 20 years ago when we started Shift, and there was one client that I had chased after, couldn't ever get past his gatekeeper, or maybe left a message, but he wouldn't return my call at all. He didn't even know who I was, and that was evident when he called me 5 years later after one of my first books came out. And he says, Wilson, I read your article on how to control credit risk in the staffing industry, and I got to admit it was great, and I'm really surprised you're answering your own phone. And so here's a guy that I had been chasing for 5 years, that I had made such an impression with my chasing him, that he didn't even remember that I was the same guy. Now, all of a sudden, he's calling me, and he's almost conscious of not wanting to waste my time on an issue. And so positioning is so much better. Allie, what's some of the ways, whether it's through blog posts, articles, what's some of the things that any of the folks that are watching this video that they can go out and do tomorrow to start positioning themselves as an expert? What would you suggest?
Well, I feel like it really starts with thinking about what your client needs. Think about who you're trying to speak to. Are you a recruiter aiming towards people fresh out of college? Or are you aiming towards more HR people? Who are you trying to talk to? And what needs can you solve for them? What problems have you seen over and over again that you feel like you can really talk about and dive into how to solve them before they even occur for someone? Because it's the idea of reciprocity, where you want to give someone a gift or something like that, where they feel indebted to you in a way, and they want to really dive into what you're selling, what you're doing. I'm sure we've all been somewhere where when the check comes, you get a little piece of chocolate as a little thank you because you're willing to tip more. There's been a lot of research into this. It's the same idea, but with your product or service of you want to give them a solution to a problem they've been having. You want to help them with that. Mm-hmm. And so that way they feel more indebted to you and are more likely to engage with you and wanting your service.
That's an interesting thing with the chocolate with the restaurants. If you go to the nicer restaurants, they always give you the chocolate, and I'm sure it does make you want to tip more. And the reciprocity, I can tell you absolutely. We're herd animals, and if somebody goes out of their way to do something kind for you, you feel indebted to where you want to do the same thing for you. And it's not manipulation. To me, it's much more genuine, because if you think about the better clients that you have right now, or the clients that you're more consultative selling, the best clients that I have are the ones that call me before there's a problem and says, hey, Wilson, here's a potential problem, or I ran into this last week. How do I need to handle it forward? And so I kind of share those levels of expertise, which quite frankly are going to probably reduce some of the collections that are coming my way, because I teach them how to solve their own problem. But two things happen is the collections that do come our way are going to be a much better quality of collection. And then secondly, I don't have to worry about competitors sneaking in and stealing my clients, because they're no longer clients. They're, I'm their confidant. I've built that relationship that's truer than that surface level of sales guy. Now, one thing that we do in one of the things, because magazines, everybody uses email and all of that. I can tell you, email response rates are going down because of the flood. Direct mail is actually improving, quality and percentage of callbacks. We do a branded magazine literally for a couple of $100 a month. You can get a quarter magazine, 100 copies and digital copies that we even actually write the articles for you. And that positions you as an expert in your company as an expert. So if you're interested in something along those lines, or you want to work a little closer with the marketing side, email Allie at ALLY@elocglobal.com. But Allie, I agree with you 100%. The power of reciprocity, and then also to me, it fosters genuineness in that relationship between the client and in yourself, because you're no longer saying, "Hey, can I sell you something?" It's you're giving them value and actually teaching them how to do their jobs better. So
absolutely, it's all about making the other people's lives easier. So that way, when they have a problem, they want to come to the person that's already made their lives so much easier in the past.
And I agree with you 100%. Well, Allie, as once again, thanks for joining me while I'm out on the road, and I'll be back into Atlanta on Wednesday. But if you have any questions, or like I said, if you want to look at working with us a little deeper, then email Allie, and we'll go from there. And we will see you next week on Marketing Moments.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.